Good evening. Thank you for being here this evening. We are going to open our general meeting and note that we are going to adjourn to closed session again at the end of this meeting. And so we will report out any actions taken when closed session is over. So, Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Slurt.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Westfall. And Mayor Shalom.
And I am here. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Murray, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Salute and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is proclaim May as National Foster Care Month. And I've asked Karen Sullivan to be here this evening to accept this proclamation. And it's a long one, so bear with me. Whereas National Foster Care Month originated in 1988 when the National Foster Parent Association influenced the United States Senate to introduce a resolution to proclaim May as National Foster Care Month. And whereas since that time, federal, state, and local governments, including the state of California, cities and counties throughout California, have proclaimed May as National Foster Care Month. And whereas foster parents, relative caregivers, group home staff, mentors, advocates, social workers, teachers, educators, and volunteers provide valuable support and compassionate encouragement to the approximately 496,000 foster youth across the United States, more than 80,000 of whom reside in the state of California. Whereas during the month of May, the City Council of Crescent City, California honors the contributions of the families, organizations, agencies, and individuals who contribute to the educational achievement and well-being of foster youth, and aim to raise awareness of the challenges and strengths of foster youth. And whereas the California Department of Education provides grant funding for foster youth services programs throughout California to promote the educational success of foster youth with tutoring, mentoring, counseling, enrollment assistance, and interagency support for foster youth. And whereas foster youth services programs provide exemplary educational services and support for foster youth students each year. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of Crescent City, California hereby proclaims the month of May 2010 be recognized as National Foster Care Month. Be it further proclaimed that we recognize the unique challenges faced by foster youth and are committed to the educational success of foster youth and all students. Be it further proclaimed to honor the public and community agencies, groups, and individuals who provide care and support for foster youth to be successful in school and throughout their lives. Signed by myself.
I have a little speech to say. Okay. Through no fault of their own, children from birth to 18 are removed from the care of their parents primarily because of abuse or neglect. It is estimated that 80% of these cases involve drugs or alcohol. Nearly all of these youths have suffered trauma or maltreatment. Foster youth are moved frequently. With multiple homes come multiple school placements. Remember, these children are not to blame for being in foster care. Often these children are cared for in a new home with people they do not know, and such change is stressful. Nearly 80,000 children are in foster care in California. Youth in foster care often have substantial educational needs, having moved from family to family and school to school, and often have fewer opportunities to prepare for college or entering the workforce. These children need our support and guidance. Bill Gray, Vice Chairman of the Pugh Commission on Children in Foster Care, observed, "There are 500,000 human beings who could lose their potential. How many future doctors, how many teachers, how many lawyers, how many public servants are in that group? That is because of instability and neglect and abuse at the very beginning of life, because of no permanency and no family, we lose what they could become. That's a loss you cannot measure." Thank you very much.
Karen, before you sit down, can you just tell us a little bit about the foster care environment here in Del Norte County?
Well, in Del Norte County, we don't have any group homes. So when children need to go to group homes, they're sent out of county. Every time a child is moved from school, they lose about 6 months in their education. And so, some children average like 19 moves in their life. And this is really harmful. And we're trying, we passed AB 490 in 2003. And I had the job in 2007. This is the first time we had a foster youth service coordinator and educational liaison. And so I've been working average about 60 in county and about 18 out of county. So these kids really need our support.
Mm. And I know that you work diligently with those kids, and I wasn't really quite sure exactly what you did until we had a conversation here about a month ago. And I just want to thank you for all of your service to the kids.
I love the job. It's very rewarding.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thanks.
We're really lucky to have Karen. I was a social worker for the county, and when I was a social worker, we didn't have anyone like Karen as the liaison for students in the schools. And it's really important if a child can stay in the same school or have a liaison like Karen to make sure that they're succeeding in school when they are removed from their family of origin. And it's very helpful for them to make sure that they're doing well in school. So we're really lucky to have Karen in particular for our kids. So thank you.
Thanks. Welcome, Mrs. Tynes. Nice to have you here this evening. Okay, next, Mr. Butler, our city manager, has taken the initiative without direction from this council to implement what he calls the Next Generation Group, and that is a group of people that he's congregating to learn how to become the next leader here in Del Norte County and Crescent City. So I'm going to allow him to take this over.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Mayor and members of the council, you probably will recall that it was during my performance evaluation back in September I started thinking through what I wanted my own goals to be, aside from some of the major organization-wide goals that we've identified through the town hall process. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to really start an internal leadership development program. The term succession planning is kind of a big trendy buzzword now because we have a lot of, both in public and private sector organizations, we have a lot of people that are kind of reaching that late 50s, early 60s, 65 age range and are transitioning into retirement, the baby boom generation. And we haven't always done a real good job of developing the next generation of management leadership in organizations. So we thought about how best to do that. We don't claim to have a perfect system yet, but we have had a few meetings and have identified a group of people that are kind of, we're unofficially calling it the under 45 and under crowd, although we've got people of all ages in the group. And the point is just to kind of get to know each other better, get to know the whole citywide organization better, and get to know the other public sector organizations that we interface with better. And we've had 4 or 5 meetings so far. Some of those meetings we just had internal discussions about what's going on in the city organization. We've also had guest speakers, including School Superintendent Jan Morehouse. We've had new County CAO Jay Serena. We'll have some of the other CEOs from public sector agencies and probably some private businessmen come in and businesswomen as well. The goal is to have them talk about how they became leaders, how their career path went, what they think leadership is all about, and then to tell us about their organizations and how the city can work better with their business or with their government agencies, that we can be a better partner so that our next managers understand that we're not just an island unto ourselves, that we need to be part of an overall community in Del Norte County. So we're excited about it, and we have the members of the first class of the next generation group here tonight, so we wanted to have them all stand up, and I'll introduce you to them, or introduce them to you individually. Starting on that front row, we have Megan Miller from the Housing Authority. Great. We have Big Fritz Ludeman from he's our information technology.
Tall is a better word.
Yeah, our information technology administrator. And you guys can have a seat so we can
See behind Fritz.
And we have Jason Wiley from the Public Works Department. Does a real good job. In fact, Jason, our next meeting in May, Jason's going to be giving us a grand tour of the corporate yard facility. A lot of us that work in other parts of the city, other buildings, don't really understand what goes on over there and what it's all about. So he's going to take us on a full e-ticket tour of that facility. Mm-hmm. All right, then behind Jason, we have Eric Weir from Public Works and Utilities. And then we have Sergeant Garrett Scott from the Police Department.
Behind you.
And over here we have two pool staff members. We have Matt Hildebrand, our pool manager, and Brooke Knox, who is one of his top lieutenants over there at the pool, Fred Indert Pool.
Brooke was also a participant in the Junior Miss pageant when I was the director.
Right.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
That's just about everyone. We may have had a few people that weren't able to make it, but again, we'll have different people get a chance to cycle through over the next couple of years, but we're excited about it.
That's great. I want to congratulate all of you for taking that step because becoming a leader in our city is really important. And so I wish you well. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Approval of the regular minutes for April 5th, warrant claims for April 6th through the 19th, biweekly payroll reports, and to receive and file our Crescent City comprehensive annual financial report dated June 30th, 2009.
Madam Mayor, I had a couple corrections to offer.
Okay.
On page 4 of the meeting minutes, and that'd be for April 5th, there's a duplication of about the middle of the top paragraph, the duplication of Council Member Westfall's name. And then, and then it seemed like at the end of that, item number 13, if I recalled correctly, that you inquired as to what Ms. Westfall's no vote represented, and I didn't see any reference to that.
Do you have, can you go back and add that information? Yeah. Okay.
And then if we turn over to the comprehensive annual financial report, there were a couple issues that I think maybe need to be clarified.
Have you spoken to Mr. McDonald about it?
I have not.
Okay.
One was on page 19, and it's notes to the basic financial statements, and it has a paragraph there showing the sewer revolving loan, and it refers to it as a 20-year terms, so it doesn't reflect the more current 30-year term?
It will not reflect that because this is an audit that is dated June 30th, 2009.
Okay.
That's just now finished, filed with the state, and completed. So the next audit that we have for 2009-2010 will represent that.
Very good.
Is that correct, Rod?
That is, yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
I had an addition to the minutes. On page 4, at the top of the page, starting with, he stated that Councilmember
Hold on,
Westphal...
could you please wait till we get there? Thank
Sure.
you. Page what? 4?
Page 4.
Okay.
Starting with, he stated that Councilmember Westphal is costing the city a substantial amount of money regarding the WWTP, wherein city staff is trying to save the citizens and city money. I had mentioned that the net cost by adding 10 years to loan is another $4 million in interest, and I want that added to the minutes. Plus, I had brought up that the Prop 218 vote, the rates change by eliminating the increase this year and reducing the increase next year to half, can be increased at any time without a Prop 218 protest vote. So I'd like those two things added to the minutes.
Mrs. Patch, if you would go back to the recording and actually incorporate exactly what Ms. Westphal said.
I will do that.
Thank you. Okay. Any other changes or questions? If I could get a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, with the mentioned changes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Can we move number 8 to later on in the meeting, just the RDA?
Sure. That's fine, Mayor.
Is there a reason we have RDA on and not housing?
Yes, Susie took care of her business during the first meeting because she's going to be out of town the second half of April.
Okay. Is there anybody here specifically for RDA tonight?
I can wait, but I have a question about warrant claims.
Okay, well, you can ask that when we go into the RDA section. I just think there's a lot of other people.
It's on the consent agenda, and my question...
No, it's not on the consent agenda. For RDA?
No, my question is about a warrant claim. It's on the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a public comment for the consent calendar? Mr. Miles.
Yes. I have a concern because Friday afternoon, when I went down to City Hall to look at the agenda like I normally do, I went through the agenda packet very thoroughly. The reason why I did is because on Thursday of that week, I saw my city make a large purchase at Home Depot. My question, and I looked for the warrant for Home Depot because of that purchase. What my city did, and I don't have any qualms about it, was they purchased a whole bunch of flowers. It's my understanding these flowers, some of them were planted at the lab, and the rest of them are going to be planted downtown. In this period, when the city is tidying its budget, is the bid people going to reimburse the city for this purchase? Because if the city's going to go around and buy flowers for the downtown merchants, I'd like some in my yard too.
Who are the big people?
Bid,
Oh, bid.
B-I-D.
Okay.
Since we take an assessment from the people downtown, I believe that if they want flowers in the tree wells, that there's a kind of a thing of social responsibility, and they should be paying for them. And I think it is going to create a large burden on my city, for my city parks people to have to water the plants in the tree well. I would like to, well, I'm not going to suggest anything. I'll bring this up in public comment where it should be brought up. but I want to know how much money that my city spent at Home Depot for the 3 truckloads of plants that I saw purchased last Thursday at Home Depot.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that and move on. We're going to move item number 8 to, well, we'll just do it after item number 15. And we'll move on to public hearings. We are going to conduct a public hearing regarding final accomplishments. Oh, actually, is she here?
I don't see her yet. I think we'll probably need to postpone that.
We have to
Just
post.
for-
Sorry, we have
until
to
after
postpone
7.
that. Charlene has a brand new little baby, so she's going to get here as soon as she can. So we will move that to her arrival. Is there anyone here for that specific item? Susie, are you okay with waiting since she's not here? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, reports. We have the lovely Gina Zatola, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, to give us her quarterly report.
There we go. That's a little bit better. Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Thanks for having me back for my quarterly report. We had some good months this last 3 months. The Visitor Center for January had about 338 physical counts of people coming through the doors to get information, which was an increase of almost 25%. February went up to 424 people, increase of almost 32%. In March, we saw 960 people come through the doors, which is a 36% increase.
That's great.
March was a really good month. And we saw a lot of people in March coming over from Oregon for their spring break. And so it really gave us a good boost in March for the economy and local businesses. Visitor packets that we mail out. In January, we had 121.88 increase.
Wow.
In February, which was 142 that we mailed out, in February we had 170, almost 171% increase. In March, 111. And again, this, you're going to ask me, what's this attributed to? This is attributed to the marketing that the Visitors Bureau is doing.
What are they doing? Can you tell us what they've been doing the first quarter?
Well, I know they've been advertising in Sunset, and we get a lot of leads from that. And what it is, it's a reader response card, and people that want more information can write in and say, I'd like more information. And we're getting labels probably every week and a half, every 2 weeks. So for people that want more information on our area, which is great. So it shows that something's working. These increases show that we're getting the information out, and people are getting driven to the Visitors Bureau's website. So that's awesome. So that's working. Relocation packets, mailed out about 16, which is really, it's an increase from last year at this time for January, but it's not really a lot. Right now we see more of an increase in the summertime. That was about a 60% change, an increase from last year, so that's always good. February we mailed out 2, and in March we mailed out 8. So we're obviously out there touching some people and getting them in contact with our community and what we have to offer.
That's great.
All right.
Any questions from the council?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open this up to general public comment. Any member of the audience is invited to address our council on anything that's within the jurisdiction of the City of Crescent City. Note, however, the council is not able to undertake extended discussion or act on non-agendized items this evening, as such items can be referred to staff for action or placement on a future agenda. After receiving recognition from myself, if you're new to public comment, come up to the podium and state your name and just let us know if you live in the city or the county for the record. And we have a light system, so you actually get 3 minutes, and the green light will come on. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light will come on, and when your 3 minutes is up, the red light will come on. So we'll open it up to general public comment now. So if you're here and you want to say anything to us that's not on the agenda, this would be the time. Can't see behind you, Rod. Ma'am? Susie? You can pull that there. There you go.
Hi, my name is Susan Williamson. I have Silly Susie's Ice Cream Truck. I hold a current business license in Crescent City.
And do you live in the city or the county?
I live at 330 Birch Avenue in the county.
Thank you.
The reason I'm here is I would like to ask the City Council to review the mobile vending ordinances and consider rewriting them to bring them up to date. There's an ordinance that allows me to sell at the food court, but I have to take the motor out of the car if I do. And I think that's probably outdated. Another ordinance requires me to get a special use permit for each sale of every popsicle that I make. I think that's really unreasonable. In a day's time, I could sell 100 to 200 popsicles. I would really like you to make this possible for me.
You're saying our ordinance requires you to get a permit for every popsicle?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's the way it was explained to me in the office.
Okay.
And I'd like to know why I'm not allowed to see special use permits that are on file currently, because I went to the office and asked to see the ones for Schwann's, like I told you I was going to do when I got my license, and they said I would have to pay a fee for that. You know, the best I can tell, there are 7 companies operating as mobile vendors in Crescent City right now, and Sergeant Apperson told me if I were to sell another popsicle in town and he saw me, he would arrest me for a misdemeanor. I would like you to make this possible for me, or else explain why my business cannot sell popsicles to kids here in town, just as an ordinary ice cream truck would do, no special privileges. And I would like to be able to deliver popsicles to people who call me, because my phone number is on the back of the truck. People call me every day. Sometimes they get 19 to 20 calls in Crescent City to bring popsicles to people's homes. And currently your rules don't allow that. So I'm asking you to please review the mobile vending ordinances so I can be legal. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Miles?
I hate to say this. This is an example of an embarrassment of my city. Sometimes my city doesn't have any rhyme or reason. Let this lady do business. She's not hurting anybody. But I want to give you another example why I don't think there is any rhyme or reason. I am appreciating what my parks people are doing to make my town look better. For too many years, my town, with a lot of effort, and there's been jumps and starts, has been a pig with a big sore on its, and I'm not going to say on its what. What really embarrasses me is when I read in the paper for the 4th time, the one-horse pony lady is initiating a recall. Also, I find it very embarrassing, and Eric Weir did not put me up to this, so he can't get the blame. Why can't we get a bunch of people together and come up with a plan, a real plan, to make my downtown and your downtown look like something? It doesn't make very much sense to me, and I am a master gardener, to go to Home Depot and buy a mixture of annuals, pre-annuals, and biannuals. It does make sense to buy pre-annuals and biannuals because they will grow for a number of years. Jerry was smart, and he did buy some of that, but he bought a lot of annuals too. By October, we get a freeze at in August like we have in the past. Yes, and at fair time we've had freezes. They'll be dead. My question, and I think it's about social responsibility. You know, if BID wants barrows and tree wells and trees, why aren't we getting groups of people like the Crescent City Garden Club, some of us gardeners, and some other people, even Mr. Slurt that has an architectural background.
Wrap up your comments, Mr. Miles.
Well,
Please.
let's quit putting lipstick on the ass of the pig.
Mr.
Thank you.
Miles, please watch your language.
It's called a hind quarter.
It's too bad you weren't at the town hall meeting because that was discussed.
Well, why do we
Okay.
need 7 town halls?
Is there any other public comment? Sir?
Why don't you hand them to our city manager or city clerk?
Good evening. My name is John Stetson. I live in the county. I addressed this body about 1 month ago. The subject material at that time, and is again today, my desire to open up a medical marijuana facility in the city of Crescent City. The issue went over with a thud. That's unfortunate. But what I'll ask to occur is just, as I believe Mr. Slurt said in the paper, if the people are not making an effort to be fully informed, yet form an opinion on selective or partial information, then an injustice will likely result. I've passed out copies to each of you, and there's some here for some of the audience, on what this is all about for starters. It's what the voters passed as a law in 1996. It's referred to as the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, and it reads this way. This initiative measure is submitted to the people in accordance with the provisions of Article 2, Section 8 of the Constitution. This initiative measure adds a section to the Health and Safety Code. Therefore, new provisions proposed to be added and printed in italic type to indicate that they are new. You'll notice everything is new except for the last paragraph. Section 1, 11362.5 is added to the Health and Safety Code reads, this section shall be known and may be cited as the Compassionate Use Act of 1996. The people of the state of California hereby find and declare that the purposes of the Compassionate Use Act of 1996 are as follows. To ensure that seriously ill Californians have the right to obtain and use marijuana for medical purposes where that medical use is deemed appropriate and has been recommended by a physician who has determined that the person's health would benefit from the use of marijuana in the treatment of cancer, anorexia, AIDS, chronic pain, spasticity, glaucoma, arthritis, migraine, or any other illness for which marijuana provides relief. To ensure that patients and their primary caregivers who obtain and use marijuana for medical purposes upon the recommendation of a physician are not subject to criminal prosecution or sanction. To encourage the federal and state government to implement a plan for the safe and affordable distribution of marijuana to all patients in medical need of marijuana. I'll be just a couple more seconds, if I may, ma'am.
You can wrap up a very last thought.
Thank you. It took 8 years after the people passed this vote for the Senate to come up with a bill known as 420 to enact and implement this. It also took a lot of work by other people. At the next session, I will publish early the next subject I would like to talk with you about, which is the Attorney General of the state of California's decision on how to avoid medical marijuana becoming available in a non-diversion to a private use.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there any other public?
Questions?
No. Is there any other public comment?
Yes.
I'm Donna Westfall. I live in the city. There are two issues I wanted to talk about briefly today. One is the Daily Triplicate article, City Tallies Up Westfall Costs, dated December 5th, 09. Nick Ruby wrote that I cost the city $37,754.87. And I've heard my fellow council members beat on this drum over and over. I'd like to just remind you that you, approved $895,000 to Stover Engineering, $398,000 in hauling contaminated soil, and $35,000 in designer error. Secondly, Bill Renfro is up speaking under public comment about how so many businesses are not coming to our city because of my politics and what it's doing to the city. So I emailed Bill and asked him if he would be kind enough to provide me with a list of those businesses' contact names and telephone numbers so I can hear from the horse's mouth exactly what their objections are. And I received a certified mail letter saying no compilation exists of a listing of names, addresses, and telephone numbers of persons or organizations. Thank you very much.
A certified letter?
Yes.
From who?
Bill Renfro.
And I believe that, just to clarify, that Mr. Renfro said that because his communications with businesses outside this area he is under a confidentiality agreement and cannot give you that information. Is there any other public comment? Mr. Howard?
Chris Howard, County residents. Excuse my effort for hopping over the banister there. First, I'd like to speak towards what Rod Butler is doing for the city and looking forward to that next generation. Succession plan is extremely important in companies, and it's very important for government. And looking forward to the futures, I think a great thing for you to do. But what I wanted to speak to you about this evening is something that's been playing on my mind for quite some period of time. And it really hit home at a chamber luncheon a couple weeks back. And it was during that luncheon that I came to the realization that a lot of the efforts that have been taken over the past 20 years to get this city up to speed with various infrastructure projects that would basically help that rising tide to float all boats. That means all the businesses and community members would benefit from these infrastructure projects. And one of those includes our wastewater treatment facility, something that the community supported a great deal. And there was a minor voice during that period of time that didn't. And there will continue to be that minor voice. But I wanted to let you know that the businesses in this community really support the efforts of the City Council to make sure this project moves forward to completion because it looks out for the majority of the community. And I want to make sure that you guys are aware that we'll continue to support your efforts as the City Council in making sure this happens. And I want to make it known tonight that some of the efforts that I see coming out in public in this battle that continues really polarizes the community, that a lot of us, a lot of community leaders have stepped up over the last 20-something years to make sure we come together and realize that the efforts through the timber and fishing communities that have failed now need to be revitalized so we could all be on a level playing field and look forward to that future. Because I, for one, who have a family here, little children that I want to stay and be able to come back and have a job, will benefit at some point from those infrastructure projects like Highway 199, broadband, the wastewater treatment facility that will help new business come to this area. We do have a future here to look forward to, and that future is sitting right behind us. And if we don't start coming together and creating an atmosphere that polarizes us, those groups like the California Endowment or the Ford Foundation or the Ford Family Foundation that have paid a considerable amount of dollars to help that community revitalization occur, I'm afraid they won't continue to come back because they want to see a unified community. And that unification, I feel, is starting to be stressed. And I felt tonight it was my turn to step up and talk to this point. So please continue to do what you're doing because it's that longer time frame we got to be looking forward to, not that short window. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Lisa? You can pull that down. There you go.
Oh, thank you. I'm Lisa McCowan, and I live in the county, and I'm the Del Norte County Crescent City Chamber President. And I just want to tag on to what Chris said to let you know that it's the Chamber of Commerce standing here tonight supporting our council to move forward. And we're very sad on how things are going, and we hope it changes soon. That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other public comment? Are you kids? Do you kids have anything to say?
They're here for a specific
Tobacco.
Okay. All right, we're going to close general public comment. Thank you for those comments from the Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate it. We're going to move on to continuing business, which is to review, consider, and introduce for the first reading ordinance number 756, amending our Crescent City Municipal Code, Chapter 9.17, to prohibit smoking in public parks, playgrounds, and other places, and waive the full reading and read by title only. And let me say that I want to give kudos to why we're actually here this evening, and it's because of you kids and also the Friday Night Live group that have really pushed this council forward to get to this point. And I am so proud of you for doing that. And I know that a lot of you have taken time to go out into our parks and pick up thousands of cigarette butts that we are very ashamed of. But the fact that you did that means a lot to our city and the residents that live in it. And the fact that you stood here several months ago and said, please make our parks smoke-free, rang very loudly to all of us. And of course, when you're in government, it takes quite a while to make progress sometimes because you have to jump through a lot of hoops. But we did tell our staff that it was important to us. And so we have Martha Rice here this evening, who is our Deputy City Attorney, who has jumped through all those hoops and come back to us with an ordinance for us to review. And it won't get finalized tonight, but tonight is a big step in moving forward. So thanks for being here tonight. Ms. Rice.
Mayor, members of the council, I believe it was in the fall that the council has directed legal department to come up with an ordinance with specific direction, and that was to prohibit smoking in public parks, in areas designed for use by children, at public events, within 50 feet of the entrance to any public building, and also to sort of provisions regarding the littering of cigarette butts, and also an idea about requiring employers to provide appropriate receptacles for cigarette butts. Using that information, I worked on developing this ordinance in conjunction with model ordinances promulgated by Public Health Law and Policy. It's a nonprofit organization focused on providing information on legal matters relating to public health, and also ran this by Jeff Woolsfeld, the Del Norte County Health Education Coordinator, and got some feedback from him, which I revised the ordinance with that feedback. The proposed ordinance implements most of the provisions that were asked for There was requested a 50-foot barrier between entrances and where a person could smoke. The model ordinance I used seemed to justify a 25-foot barrier, so to avoid any claims of the distance being unreasonable, we moved it to 25 feet. The only other change was there is not a requirement in here for employers to provide receptacles for cigarette butts. It became a little bit unworkable for two reasons. One is that if you require employers to have some kind of ashtray or something outside their door, then that may actually encourage people to come smoke next to the ashtray. And then, so that's, counterproductive to what we're trying to do here. The other problem was then a lot of places couldn't even put a receptacle 25 feet away from their door because it would be on someone else's property or in front of someone else's business. So for now, we're going to leave that provision out until we come up with a better idea for places for people, appropriate places for people to put their cigarette butts. And before you tonight, you have the ordinance that we came up with. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Mr. Slurt?
I would commend you for putting this ordinance together. I think it's timely. I think it's responsive to what we've heard from the community. I think it is probably impractical to put the burden on businesses to have cigarette butt urns, if you will. And the issue of whether they're 50 feet away is probably not realistic. 25 feet away is probably more realistic. But I think we go to the efforts to make a policy like this. And I remember when the kids came in last year and showed literally the thousands of cigarette butts that they had collected. And that was in already no smoking places, which was just absolutely unbelievable. We're proposing to make an ordinance, and yet we're not making provisions for somebody to place their cigarette butts. So that still concerns me. I mean, there's a part of me that says if there was a possibility to create like the Salvation Army with their red kettles, where they collect money. If you had something that was identified throughout the city, and probably from the leadership of the city. I mean, I think of our wonderful new trash disposal cans that the city staff has put together with a Battery Point graphic on it. If there was something that was placed around town in strategic points, that it would encourage people to use them, which would help the whole premise of the idea of not throwing cigarette butts in the park or on the playgrounds or on the sidewalks and the landscaping, because it is a scourge to our community and to the kids.
Catherine?
Mr. Rolsfield, don't we have a VIP from Sacramento coming up here on Wednesday that we could consult with?
Yes, we do. Yeah. She's the head of the tobacco control program, so she'll be here Wednesday. Not going to knowledge she knows all.
That maybe
what kind of information are you looking for from her?
For a suggestion from Councilmember Slurd on the receptacles. That is a good suggestion. This is something that I'm thrilled that we are finally getting this passed. It's something that I've wanted for a long time. It has been inspired by the children in the audience here. You guys have been wonderful in going out and picking up all the nasty cigarette butts in our community, and we're very proud and thankful to all of you, and the adult supervision that we've had. Nancy, thank you very much, and the support of your director, Gary Blatnick. So thank you all for the support and all the hard work that you kids have done. So we are greatly appreciative for you helping to get this going for us and motivating us into having this passed. And thank you, Martha, for all your hard work in doing this. So I'm very, very happy that we're having this finally go through and passing this. So I'm very excited about it.
Mr. Burns?
I'd just like to thank Martha for taking the boilerplate and helping it be enforceable and meaningful for our community. Thank you.
Ms. Westphal?
Yes, I actually have some questions. On page 6, chapter 9.17, smoking prohibitions, 9.17.010, item B, the City Council declares the purpose of this chapter is to prohibit the smoking of tobacco or any weed or plant in city buildings or vehicles in areas designed for use by children specifically, in public parks, at public events, and within 50 feet of public entrances to any buildings open to the general public. Now, we just heard John Stetson talk about us being educated into medical marijuana. And what if someone like John Stetson wanted to put on a public event so that people suffering from chronic and critical illness were educated about medical marijuana? If I understand this correctly, any weed would include medical marijuana. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me clarify what you're asking. If he's going to put on a public event to educate people, they're not going to be in a room smoking marijuana. Is that what you're asking? Can they all get together and smoke marijuana?
Yeah, would they be able to, or even out in the park, you know, if they had like other cities?
Then the answer would be absolutely not.
Okay.
You can't, I'm sorry, you can't speak from out there,
Yeah.
but I will take public comment in a few moments.
Yeah, excuse me, this is an area I'm still pretty ignorant about. I've just started to learn about 215 cards and medical marijuana, and there's a lot that I don't know. But I'm just wondering if somebody wanted to put on a public event, then that means that you cannot smoke medical marijuana at a public event.
No.
Okay. Now on page 7, item F, goes on to mean smoke means marijuana smoke, crack cocaine smoke, and G means a lighted hookah pipe. Again, I'm totally ignorant about crack cocaine smoke and what a lighted hookah pipe is. But before we sign this into a new ordinance, I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly.
Sure. So what's the question?
Then it would prohibit any public event, including the smoking of
crack
medical
cocaine,
marijuana, and et cetera.
Yes, it wouldn't prohibit the event. It would prohibit smoking at the event.
Okay. Just wanted clarification.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Was that it from the council? Okay, my only clarification I was looking for is the signage. How are we going to educate our residents and business owners about the new laws?
Well, TUP has indicated that they can provide vinyl stickers to place in window fronts of businesses that says no smoking within 25 feet of this entrance per Crescent City Municipal Code section, chapter. And also the ordinance provides for signs to be located in entrances to the park or appropriate areas in the park. Maybe if there's a collection of tables and that seems like an area that might become a problem, we could put a sign up there.
Okay. And do we have any kind of, I don't think I saw, any kind of a general fiscal impact, Rod, for signage?
You know, Mayor, we haven't specifically looked at that as part of this report. I would say, we can certainly, based on a number of signs a projected number of signs that we would need, we can come up with a number pretty quickly.
Well, I was thinking maybe between the police department, because you may know where the largest majority of the problems may exist, and between the group with Mr. Wohlsfeld, where they've found the most cigarette butts and those kinds of things. Maybe you could come back with some kind of a signage plan. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm sure it's not going to be a lot of money, but it's something we need to be able to account for. Okay. I'm going to open this up to public comment. It's going to be the same rules as before. Mr. Wohlsfeld?
Hello. I'm Jeff Wohlsfeld with the Department of Health and Human Services Tobacco Use Prevention Program. I'll keep my comments short. Thank you. This is like a dream come true. You've exceeded our expectations. I want to touch about the receptacles for the cigarette butts. At the next health fair meeting or fair, we're going to give out portable receptacles. And the kids are going to be designing those, and you can just carry those in your pocket. So when you have a cigarette that you need to throw away, you're just going to open up this canister and you put it right in there.
Yeah.
So it's made out of recycled material. So, and then the signs for the buildings. This is just kind of a prototype that we're going to be designing just for city buildings, businesses, and it will be at no charge. We'll provide these through bid or however we want to get those out. And for the signs for the parks, we're paying for those. So that's covered. It won't be any expense to the city, but you'll have to put them up. So anyway, that's all I had. We have a lot of kids back here that want to speak, so
Absolutely.
I'll just get out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tynes?
Hi, my name is Jolie Tynes. I live in Crescent City. I'm a 6th grader at Crescent Elk Middle School, and I'm a student of Mrs. Wohlsfeld's class. I support the policy against smoking in public areas. We all know that smoking is horrible for not only the smokers, but the people around them as well. We also know that the most frequently visited areas are public areas. Every time a small child passes a smoker, they have the risk of breathing in the disgusting smoke from a cigarette. That same smoke could cause a serious, even fatal asthma attack for an asthmatic child. Step by step, we can make this a smoke-free community. It all starts with the public areas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next. Sir?
Hello, my name is Nicholas Jacob, and I am a 6th grader at Crescent Elk Middle School, and I support the Tobacco Use Prevention Program, and I would like to make our community a healthier and better place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victor Del Santos. I live in Crescent City. I believe that it is a good thing that the parks are going smoke-free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Fink Tao and I live in Del Norte and I want smoking to be banned.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sage Swan and I live in Del Norte County. I am a 6th grader at Crescent Oak Middle School. I fully support the policy against smoking in public areas. As we all know, smoking is one of the worst things you can do to your health. The death rate for smokers in America is 440,000 people per year. Some estimate that 50,000 people die from secondhand smoke each year. I wonder how many children are included in these statistics. Our public spaces have been entrusted to you. I trust this council will make a decision that benefits us all. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members.
Sage, I don't think I've seen you since you were about 5. I'm starting to feel old.
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I live in Crescent City, and I fully support the ban against smoking in public places. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cora Hogan, and I live in Crescent City, and I am a 6th grader at Crescent Elk School. I'm here because I support the policy against smoking in public areas. My little brother has asthma, and cigarette smoke causes his asthma to flare up, and he coughs until it hurts, and that really upsets me. I'm not only speaking for my brother, but also for non-smokers. Our town events welcome everyone, but it's mostly families that attend. There are children, infants, and pregnant women who do not or should not smoke. They do not have a choice when smokers choose to light up wherever they please. We all have a choice, and I choose to be smoke-free. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Diane Lee, and I live in Crescent City. I feel that smoking is bad for the environment, people, and animals. We should at least think about what smoking could do to us, like give us mouth cancer, shorten our life, and make our family cry. If you are someone that smokes, please think twice before you ruin your life more. I really hope that this world we are living in can all pitch in to stop this bad habit. Please be smoke-free. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other kids?
Hi, I am Faith, and I'm a 6th grader at Crescent Oak Middle School. My teacher is Miss Wolfsfeld, and I think making public places non-smoking might make people stop smoking and have people stop smoking will help our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Just I'm going to go with the little girl behind you first, Richard.
My name's Shelby, and I don't think it's a good thing to smoke at all. Because, first of all, you're kind of ruining your lungs, and you're going to have a hard time breathing. And sometimes your life won't last very long, because I know how it feels to have somebody in your family smoke, because my dad used to. And I used to hide his cigarettes when I was little. And now he finally quit for me after I asked him to.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susie, did you have Susie?
I've been volunteering at Dillon.
Go ahead and say your name again. Thank
Susan
you.
Williamson, and I live in the county. I've been volunteering at Delnart High School, CR parking lot after lunch every day that the school is open since 2006. And I pick up hundreds of cigarette butts every week. I noticed that CR put out some of those cigarette butt dispensers and very quickly just got rid of them because the people just stuffed them with stuff. So the reason I'm asking you or telling you about this is because when you put these out, who's going to clean them, and are they considered a special kind of waste that you have to have a special, you know, like they have that thing once a year when you have contaminated waste you have to throw out. And I don't know if just cigarette butts would do something like that. So it's just a thought that went through my mind. But I'm all for what you're doing, and I think it's great.
Thanks. Mr. Miles.
I want to thank the city for this. I want to thank these young people. And Donna, if you want to see a bunch of potheads, go down to Humboldt on 420 to Arcata. It's rip-roaring down there.
No, thank you.
Well, you kind of suggested it. I witnessed something the other day. These young people were over to verse 5. Patty Vernelson, honoring tithes. Excuse me. If you saw what these little kids picked up in about an hour's time around a place for little kids, you would see the need for this ordinance. And what really bothers me is in the middle of my town, there's a state building. And when you see adults like Leroy Davis, many of our attorneys...
Let's not name names.
No, I'm going to name names. We have a state building. The state law says that state buildings are supposed to be smoke-free. Every morning, by the front door, people going to court have to smoke. They throw the butts around. The court put out these containers. For years, I'd take a kitty litter rake and get rid of the butts. In front of this building, in front of the sheriff's office, the county's put out butt containers. Years ago, some of the business people put out butt containers. You can see one at Crescent City Printing. My concern, and I want to thank Jeff for putting a no smoking sign at the skateboard when we do the new signage over there. But my concern, we had a kick the butt day. It's about education. You can make all kinds of ordinances, but if this community annually doesn't have kick the butt day, you're not doing anything. If I can make a promise not to smoke at first 5, and I'm a heavy smoker. I've been doing it for years. I wish I could quit. I can't. I've tried Wellbrutin, the patch. I've tried everything. It just, for me, it just doesn't work. But at least I had enough courage to say no to marijuana.
Hello, I'm Kathy Tryon. I live in Fort Dick, and I work for the Del Norte Family Resource Center. And I want you to tell, I am so proud of these kids back here. You guys are excellent. I know most of these children because they come into the Family Resource Center. They are part of our community. They went around the Family Resource Center, picked up all kinds of ugly butts, and then they read us the best poems and stories. We're happy to say that the Family Resource Center is absolutely tobacco-free. And if one agency can do it in Del Norte County, the rest of us can. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
My name is Charles Clausing, and I live in the city of Crescent City, and I support the Tobacco Use and Prevention Program.
Thank you.
My name is Jason. I live in Crescent City. I'm a 6th grader at Crescent Oak Middle School. My teacher is Mrs. Wolfsfeld, and I think that if all public places were smoke-free, it will only help our environment, but children, adults, and animals. You don't only harm yourself when you smoke.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mai Tao. I lived in Crescent City. I learned that smoking can damage your lungs, make your life shorter, make your teeth turn yellow, and you can have asthma. So please be smoke-free. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Haley Ponder. I live in Crescent City. I believe that every place, every building, and everyone should be smoke-free. Because no one likes a smoker, and everybody who has asthma, like me, cannot walk into a building with smoke in it. So hear me out and help us make this town smoke-free.
Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is John Stetson, and I live in the county. Since my name and my issue were brought up in reference to this ordinance, I'd like to say the following. Edmund G. Brown, as a Department of Justice Attorney General, made the following guidelines for the security and non-diversion of marijuana grown for medical use and published it in August 2008. Several parts are germane to our discussion this evening. In Section 2, definitions, a physician's recommendation must be in writing, regulates the drugs involved, and they must lawfully issue a written recommendation for a person to be a valid marijuana smoker under Proposition 215. He further goes on to enforcement guidelines. Point 1, location of use. Medical marijuana may not be smoked where A, smoking is prohibited by law. B, at or within 1,000 feet of a school, recreation center, or youth center, unless the medical use occurs within a residence. And C, on a school bus, or D, in a moving vehicle or boat. I have no problem with this set of guidelines published by the Attorney General. We would require, whether it's law or not, compliance with the guidelines of the Attorney General. And if you do adopt this ordinance, we will support that as well. I'd like to commend the group of children who have come this direction. I hope they have learned that either as an individual or a group, they can make change. They can make for a better world. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. My name is Michael. I live in the county. I'm in the Boy Scouts. I just want to say thank you for you guys working so hard to make Crescent City smoke-free. This Thursday, our Crescent Elk Partnership and Fight Out Live and Boy Scout is going to pick up cigarette butts and trash to keep Crescent City Park safe and healthy this Thursday. So I just want to let you guys know. So
Great, thank you.
Yep, anytime.
Is there any other public comment? Sir?
I'm Dale Watson, and I live in the county. I've had some experience in helping people stop smoking, and it's hard. And the people that find it the hardest are those who have grown up with their parents and peers smoking around them. And it's a pretty good, pretty well established psychological principle that with this and other issues, if government opposes or condones practices that people have grown up with, that's about the only chance they have of changing anybody's mind. So I recommend you in considering this ordinance, and I hope it goes through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening? Okay, thank you so much. I encourage you to continue down this path in all facets of government that affect you kids. I can't tell you how much I appreciate, and I know the rest of the council appreciates your input and your ideas and your support. So if you have any interest in anything else that we're doing, you can always find our agendas on our Crescent City website, and feel free to come back anytime and let us know how you feel about what we're doing. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just offer that I applaud the students' involvement and participation. It shows what a community can do when they work together, and these kids do represent our future. So I wish we always had this much involvement at our council meetings.
Yeah. Martha, if you would just strike in 917-010B, you left the 50 in. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we review and introduce for first reading Ordinance 756, which amends the Municipal Code of Crescent City 9.17 to prohibit smoking in public parks, playgrounds, and other public places, and request that we waive the full reading and read by title only.
Second.
Second that.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Can I get you to pull the vote, please?
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalong?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we are actually going to be moving on to a public hearing, so I don't know if you kids want to stay or not. You're more than welcome to. But if you don't plan to stay, probably now would be the time to exit, have a mass exit. Bye, Michael.
Sum up.
That's what this is all about. Makes all the other stuff worth it.
It definitely does.
Absolutely. Okay, we are going to move back to our public hearing to hear the hearing regarding final accomplishments made through grants to the city under the state's Community Development Block Grant, which was grant number 05 STBG 1517 and 06 EDBG 2693. And this is a process we just have to go through to finalize and close out those grants. So we have been very fortunate to have Mrs. Maisie come on to staff and help, or actually contract with us to help staff get through our tangled community development block grants and update them and get us on track and get us moving forward. And before we get started, I want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'd like to hear an update on how your baby's doing.
He's doing very well. We were back home the first week in March, so we've been back home almost 2 months now.
Oh, good.
Eugene's wonderful, but 5 months was enough. And I thank you all for being patient with me while I was up there. But he's doing great. He's 11 pounds, 12 ounces now. He's almost off oxygen, still taking a few meds, but just doing regular baby stuff now. So
oh, good.
That's great.
That's awesome. Thank you. Good. Okay. Want to walk us through this?
Sure. These two grants, one was the 05 General Allocation Grant that funds public services and public works projects. That one was an unusual grant at the time. They actually did 3 allocation years all lumped into one process. That's why this grant has been going on since 2005, and we're just now closing it out. The contract period ended December 31st of 2009. So that took that whole period to get the grant completed and get it all wrapped up. It funded a large portion of the grant funded the wastewater treatment plant. That money was put towards engineering services. It also funded the CAN Food Bank, the Senior Center Nutrition Program, CASA of Del Norte, and then there was an administrative portion that helped to fund just the work that it takes to keep the grant going, and that's where my costs come from, is from that general administration. So each year you guys would have seen what's called a grantee performance report for the year. We did one back in June or July for the 08-09 year. And that reports on the number of people and ethnicity and income levels of people served through the grant for that fiscal year. This particular grantee performance report is the final report for this grant. It covers the period since the last grantee performance report, which we have started July 1st, through the end of the grant, which was December 31st. The only activity that occurred on the grant during that time was we had, in the very beginning when the grant was first applied for, there was $43,000 in the city's program income fund that was set aside to supplement funding for the public services because they had been allocated a far lower portion than they normally were during the grant cycle because the city did want to put the money towards the wastewater treatment plant. So that $43,000 was allocated. That was brought before you guys, and you determined the allocation for that. And so this is simply reporting on CAN received $33,000, CASA received $10,000, and we're simply reporting on the people that were served with that supplemental funding. So if you have any questions on that one.
So the $43,000 was ended up being an extra allocation because it did not go to the wastewater treatment plant?
Well, the $43,000 came from what's called program income, and that is almost exclusively generated from housing rehabilitation loans that were made through the, I believe it was the 2000 and the 2001 grant, and there are some far older grants that have housing rehabilitation loans out. When those loans get repaid, it's called program income. And the city can use those funds for either to reloan to other housing rehabilitation projects or for open grant activities. And at the time that this particular grant was being applied for, what had traditionally been done every year was the bulk of the grant went to public service projects. Because the wastewater treatment plant was an eligible project, and at that point it looked like it was had a really good chance of being funded, the city determined to put the bulk of their grant application toward that project. And so the public service organizations that normally got funded, there wasn't as much for them. And so the city determined at that time to set this amount aside in the program income fund. That's all that was in the program income fund at that time, to fund those at a point when they determined what the need was going to be.
Right,
so
okay.
That's where it came
And that's the meeting we just had a few months back.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm up to speed now.
Okay.
Thank you.
other questions on that one?
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. So the other grant that we're closing out is an economic development grant. This was applied for and awarded in 2006. It also ended December 31st because we fully expended the funds at that time. There's still some time left on the contract, but the funds are fully expended, and there's no need to keep the grant open any longer. This one was used to fund the Microenterprise Assistance Program that is run by North Coast Small Business Development Center. It helps small businesses and hopeful businesses to learn how to run a business. They offer both group classes and individual counseling. And they have run this program. This was the second grant that they got. We got another grant in '04 that they ran, and we have just been awarded another grant from the '09 application for to continue that project. So we're closing this grant out. Again, the grantee performance report is reporting the activities from July 1st through December 31st, and we just need to get this grant wrapped up and get moving on the new one.
Okay. Is that it? Is that it?
That's it. So we just need, for this, we just need for a motion to, and I don't know if it has to be a separate motion or if you can do it all at one, but just to accept the grantee performance reports and close out the grants. And then we'll be able to go.
Okay.
Charlene, can I ask a question?
Sure.
On the wastewater treatment plant engineering services, where is the grantee performance report exactly? I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Those were submitted. All of the activities for the wastewater treatment plant were completed prior to the period that's being reported on now. So those grantee performance reports for those activities would have come to you on the fiscal years that the activities happened. So the last one would have been probably one of the meetings in July. Because the fiscal period would have ended June 30th. So a grantee performance report was brought to the council at that time.
Anything else, Donna?
No.
Okay. Did you mention that there was going to be additional program income?
Yeah, we do have even more program income that has not been programmed yet. I think it's in the range of $155,000 was the last figure I saw. We've been getting several of these loan payoffs each year, and it may even be a little bit more than that now. But that's going to be a discussion that we'll be having over the next few months, and we'll bring that to the council, is what's the best use of that program income money, because it is a nice chunk of funds that can be used for. We have several options in terms of how to use it.
Okay. Just remembered you mentioning that. And so,
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And there does have to be public comment.
Yes.
So I will get out of the way if nobody
Thank
has
you.
any questions.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks.
Yes, I am sure of it. I can't wait to see that little baby. Mr. Miles, I'm opening up the public hearing at 7:28.
I have a concern about this reporting period. When these grants were granted, there was a few funds left over. And at that time, Will Kaplinger was managing the block grant program. A very small amount of money, and I don't know how much the true figures were, because I and Jesse Salisbury tried to get some figures from CAD, and we never have gotten the figures. But it's my understanding that Susie and other people have to make an end-of-the-year report of how they spent block grant money. I believe CAN to date has never given the city a true accounting of where the funding went. I'm aware it was divided between Peterson Park and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. To date, they haven't told the city how many clients they have in the community garden. They have got the greenhouse up, but they haven't got it functionally, and it's been vandalized in the wintertime because of lack of patrols over in the park by my city police. I do have a concern, because when we give funding to other agencies and not use this community block grant money for the benefit of all of the citizens, like we did with the sewer treatment plant, something's wrong. I'm glad Mrs. Macy's back, because I don't think she will tolerate what has gone on in the past. But I'd like Ken to come back to this council and make some kind of report to this council of what they did with their portion of the CBG funding. Thank you.
Thank you. We actually have received reports from Ken, so thank you, Richard. Is there any other public, Mr. Miles?
I'm sorry,
your
Kelly.
comment is over.
I'd like to see...
Mr. Miles.
Under the Brown Act, I'd like
Your
to...
comment period is over.
Under
Is there
the
any other
Brown Act,
public
I'm making a
comment?
request to see those documents.
It's not the Brown Act, it's the public records request, and you can make that at the city tomorrow.
Is it like bylaws
Please.
to the tri-agency that you can't find?
Mr. Miles, you're going to be asked to leave. Is there any other public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment.
I move that we accept the final grantee performance report for the Community Development Block Grant 06 of the EDBG 2693 and direct staff to complete the closeout process.
I'll second that.
Okay, can I get you to pull the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalom?
Yes.
I also move that we accept the final grantee performance report for CDBG Grant 05 STBG 1517 and direct staff to complete the closeout process.
I'll second that also.
And please pull the vote.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Mayor Shalom?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Consider and approve the proposed list of surplus property from Public Works. Mr. Barnes.
As you see by my memo, we have 5 items of surplus property we're trying to dispose of, and we have a public process that we go through, and that's through a sealed bid process, and we would put those items in the yard, and then we'd get some sealed bid for those, and it's generally put in the paper, and so unless there's any questions.
I have one question. You have most of the minimum bids seem reasonable, but I was just curious on the street sweeper, the 1985 street sweeper, minimum bid of $100.
You want it? No, just kidding. It's not in very good shape. That was just, John gave me that bid. I don't know exactly why it's $100.
You sure it's not supposed to be $1,000?
I don't know.
No?
I don't.
Yeah, we'll double check it, but I think
Well, I see like we have a 1982 Ford, and that minimum bid is $1,500, so I thought a street sweeper would be a little more than $100.
That street sweeper doesn't suck.
Or it does. I don't know. It isn't look very good. I mean, we'll see what we can do. Hopefully, we'll get a bid on it.
I thought maybe it was a typo, so.
Is there a life to a street sweeper?
Apparently so.
This one looks pretty dead. It's pretty loud, and it would be for salvage. Nobody, I don't think, would ever use it to.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay, any other questions from the council?
Just a general question, because I was looking at the financial statements on the street sweeper. Is there some kind of a meter on street sweepers that?
There's a meter on it, sure.
What kind of a meter is it?
I think there's an hour. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. That isn't something I get involved in. That would be central services, but most of our equipment have meters on them.
So that gets back to the issue of the lifespan of the equipment after so many hours or so many miles.
One of the problems we have with our diesel equipment is in 2 years, all our diesel equipment has to be updated to new emission standards. And so then we can't use them in California anymore. And
That's
that
right.
is a
I
problem.
remember that. That passed about a year ago? No, 2 years ago?
Several years ago.
Oh.
And so that's a huge problem for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And weren't they working on trying to get rid of that?
Yeah, there was a lot of the business groups are trying to get it at least postponed because, if you have a large fleet, it can be a major cost impact to change out a large diesel fleet. But I'm not sure that they were successful in.
Is that commercial diesel only, or is that all diesel automobiles?
I think it's fleets over a certain size first, so they're going after the real large diesel fleets. But it will eventually get to smaller operations like ours, and I think
it's
ours
in 2
is
years.
Yeah, 2 years from now.
Wow.
I thought they were cheap because it cost so much to dispose of them.
Well, most of our equipment, it's cheaper to get rid of it than to fix it.
But I mean, if we could get somebody to take it off our hands, it's a lot cheaper for us to do it that way.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
And people in Oregon can just purchase it and use it.
Okay.
And so that's usually the best alternative. And so that's why we're advertising in Oregon, and hopefully we can get some bidders from there. So.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Is there a nice public comment?
Oh, I think what I say is nice. It's just how some people interpret it. I'd like to be something else added to this. If this is a period of tight budgets and threats of bankruptcy. We have a motorcycle in storage.
A what?
We have a motorcycle in storage. We got a grant to buy a police motorcycle. We sent the officer to training.
Mr. Miles, this is on these particular surplus items.
Well, my question, and when the city has, my friend Mike Scavuzzo used to say, where does the buck stop? We have this vehicle that's worth probably more than $100 that we're not using. That's an asset that's going to waste. If we're not going to use it, we should surplus it. If you guys don't start having some rhyme and reason and start questioning where the buck comes from, more people will jump on Donna's bandwagon to recall you, because it's like the newspaper said, people are not having confidence in government. That's in the newspaper every day. So if you got a motorcycle that's in storage, you don't have an officer that can drive it, why aren't you putting it out to bid?
Is there any other public comment? Mr. Plack?
Like you really think I'm not going to say no.
I know you would.
Let me explain to you the motorcycle. It was given free to the city. Either we took the motorcycle or some other city would take it. We got it on an Office of Traffic Safety grant 2 years ago. Since that time, we have put it in I wouldn't say storage, but the officer that was trained on it is out on injury leave. So therefore, I can't just put another officer on that without the correct type of training. Another problem, in order to save the money for the city, I do not have money to train a new officer on that. So therefore, that motorcycle, which is still in excellent shape, I couldn't get rid of that, at least for the next 3 years per the grant. And it doesn't matter, because the point is that you have the motorcycle there for other types of benefits, such as parades and any time that I can get somebody to training that they can ride the bike. But the bike is going to be utilized in the future. Probably next year, or the next year's budget, I have money set aside for an officer to be trained on that motorcycle. So it is going to benefit. It is in excellent shape. Certainly nowhere near to going ahead and place it into surplus. Because if so,
We understand.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to close public comment and bring it back to the council. Can I get a motion to approve these items for surplus?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jim. Okay, we have two wonderful young men here this evening who I'm very proud of. They recently took a trip to Haiti to help those in need after the large disaster that they had over there. And so Mr. Eric Weir and Mr. Mike Young are here to tell us about their trip. For those of you that may not know, Eric Weir obviously works for the City of Crescent City in our Public Works Department. And Mr. Mike Young has a very long resume with the city. He was once our engineer, once our city manager, once our interim city manager, and now does some consulting work with us. So thanks for being here tonight, Mike.
Yes, well, as you know, Mike and I did recently just get back from Haiti, and so first I'd just like to maybe have Mike tell you a little bit about the group that we went with, some of the things that they do, maybe about the group that that really sort of brought us there and really facilitated our trip and helped us with our travels and whatnot. Maybe how Mike got involved with that particular group, and then I'll let you know how I was brought onto the team.
Okay. Do we want the lights dimmed? Can you all see out there, or do you want the lights dimmed?
Robin's right there.
That's good.
Keep it short, but ever since I retired in 2003, I've been involved with a group called Engineering Ministries International, and it's a group that provides, takes volunteers that are engineers, architects, and other technical people to work on projects throughout the world, most notably the third world. Associated projects will be schools, orphanages, hospitals, training facilities, whatever's needed. What the Engineering Ministries does, they're headquartered in Colorado Springs, Colorado, been in existence for about 27 or 28 years. They work as, I don't want to say as a clearinghouse, they work actually as a non-profit engineering firm, and they put together organizations that have the needs for major projects big enough to require the technical assistance. They make application to them. If they meet their criteria, then they will put together a team, and they search out a team of volunteers that have all the specific skills needed for the particular project in mind. One project I worked on was for a water treatment plant for an orphanage for handicapped children in the Dominican Republic. People in that firm were all engineers or chemical engineers or environmental. Another project I worked on was a hospital in Cameroon in Africa. On that one, we had the lead was an architect who specialized in hospitals, and of course the associated engineers for the water, wastewater, structural, and the like. A part of them also has a disaster response team, of which I'm a member, and just as the name implies, they respond to natural disasters anywhere throughout the world. They don't respond as first responders, at least not on their own. What they do is they work, as a consultant, if you want, with other organizations, for example, such as World Vision, or Samaritan's Purse, or Compassion International. A couple of these are really set up to handle major disaster responses. Particularly, for example, Samaritan's Purse, who responded into Haiti, and we sent a team with them almost within the first week, particularly to set up housing facilities and water and wastewater facilities for the displaced people. So I've been involved with them making trips for, since I think my first trip was in 2004. I've probably been on at least a dozen or more trips in Africa, South, Central America, and to Haiti. This trip was my third trip to Haiti. Haiti in particular is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Somewhere between 50 and, the statistics changed, vary a little bit, but on the low end, it's 50%. The high end is 70% of the people live on less than $2 a day. You know, what the cost of a cup of coffee or a Big Mac. And that's what a person is living on. It's unbelievably poor. So the earthquake there was particularly devastating for them because they're such a poor country to begin with, and then to have a catastrophe like that was doubly hard. They lacked building codes and the like. So anyway, because of the earthquake, I'm also trained as a structural evaluator for earthquakes. Matter of fact, I'll be involved in a training session towards the end of this month. So I was one of the ones to go in a team with 4 of us to Port-au-Prince, and I'll let Eric tell you how he got involved in this. And then the 2 of us will share some of the photos and stuff that we put together for a presentation, telling you a little bit about what we did and showing some of the things we saw and some of the people we saw.
So for myself, you know, I'd known that Mike had done this sort of thing in the past and whatnot, and I've also worked with Mike, as Kelly said, you know, via the city manager role or even the public works director. And it was a typical Tuesday morning, and I was sitting there sort of getting the day planned out, and Mike came in, and, you know, hey, Mike, how's it going? Good. He sort of sat down, he had kind of a serious look on his face, and he said, this may come out of the blue, but we need another engineer to go to Haiti. Would you like to go? And so I sort of took a deep breath and
got goosebumps.
yeah, exactly. And I said, well, you know, that's actually something I was thinking about, but I'll need to discuss it with my wife and whatnot, and when do we go? How long do we have? And he said, well, we leave on Monday. So that sort of took, the breath out of me right there. And I said, okay, well, let me discuss it with my wife, and we have 2 small children, so this is going to be a big decision for us to go for 2 weeks. And so he said, okay, and I said, can I have a little bit of time? Sure, and he sat back in the chair and sort of waited for me to make a few phone calls.
No pressure.
But,
you got 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so I called my wife and, thought it was going to be a very in-depth conversation and, that's something we'd have to talk about. And said, well, I've been asked to go to Haiti. What do you think? You should go. Okay, that's great, Mike. I guess I'm going with you. And that's sort of how we started this adventure. But what we've done is we've put together some slides and sort of in an order to sort of represent our trip and things we saw, things we did. So this first slide is in particular an important slide and something that was a recurring theme as we went on our trip. This is a shot of a classroom, a class blackboard, and you'll see this date. It's basically translated, it says Tuesday, January 12th, 2010. That's the date that the earthquake hit. This is always a very nice classroom. You can see it was in color and really represents an upper scale school. We saw this in a lot poorer style classrooms as well. But what it represents is the fact that these children have not been able to go back into their classroom since that earthquake. This is a shot of us basically leaving Crescent City. As we arrived in Port-au-Prince's earthquake was hit very hard as well, and it was absolutely, destroyed. They had to build another terminal. In fact, our plane was actually canceled out of Fort Lauderdale to Haiti. So we had to rent a car in Fort Lauderdale, drive to Miami, and then fly from Miami to Haiti. My luggage happened to be lost in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh.
Yes, and for me, this was kind of an eyes wide open trip anyway, and so I had packed absolutely everything I had in this bag, and I was set, and it was organized, and double checked, and now it was gone. And but as everything happens for a reason, it actually made it to Haiti the next day, and it wasn't a big deal. This was the team. This is made up of an engineer from San Diego, structural engineer, Eric Lemkuhl, Mike. This was one of the few shots we had of the four of us, so we'll explain this gentleman a little bit later. But Gary McPhee was the project lead. He's actually a full-time employee of EMI, and then myself. These are our accommodations. Mike.
Looks like jail.
We.
Oh.
Yes. We slept in the tents. This is actually Compassion International's headquarters. This is their office building. That's the organization that's hosted us while we were there. So we slept in the parking lot. You can see this fence behind us over here it was hit by the earthquake and actually fell down. There's another fence that you don't see right here, and it was actually leaning about 4 or 5 inches in one direction, so we made sure our tents were a little bit farther back than what that fence's height are. But Mike Young slept in a single room right here. I had a double occupancy room. My tent was right here. This was our bathroom, our laundry. You can see this is actually one of Mike's shirts that he has hanging up right here. The kitchen. As you can see that the roof actually was destroyed off this little kitchen area, and so they had slung a tarp over this. And tarps are great except when it rains, and they tend to puddle in areas. So we would take chairs or 2x4s or whatnot and try to push this puddle out. A lot of times that didn't work, so they just poked a hole in that particular portion of the tarp.
And we didn't eat at the table underneath.
Yeah, that was. I'll let Mike talk a little bit about some of the buildings we saw and some of our processes that we went through to go and evaluate the buildings.
This was the Compassion headquarters. Matter of fact, I might mention the group we went for was Compassion International, and Compassion International is a nonprofit that has a child sponsorship program. Where people here in the United States and elsewhere sponsor children in third world countries, and they have around 800,000 kids under their sponsorship program throughout the world, about 35,000 of them in Haiti. So this was in their office building. They were the ones that had us come in. They had about 50, well, they had around 80 buildings, about 50 of which we did the evaluation on. Their concern was these were the buildings that were standing, and what they wanted to know was, are they safe to occupy or not? And if they're not, is there anything we can do about it? And what, if anything? Left quick?
Just roll down.
Roll, okay. Oh, wrong way. The first one you saw, Eric, this Eric, looking at it, this is the other Eric. There were two Erics on the team. He's climbed up. We were doing some churches also, looking to see how those trusses, roof trusses, were connected to the wall. So we're actually climbing all over these buildings. Residential, you can guess who that might be, climbing up on the roof of the third-story building. Long step in the ladder there.
Let me just interject on this one. I was actually taking this shot of the ladder itself because the ladder was so rickety that I was like, boy, look at this ladder. And before I knew it, there goes Mike up the ladder. So I'm thinking, great, now I have to go up the ladder.
This is a school building we drove up to. And as we drove up to it, I said, oh boy, this is a slam dunk. This is no problem. We see the first floor, it had hardly any cracks and outside walls and everything, until we saw the second floor and see the crack there, the separated, and every one of these columns had been sheared through. And had the earthquake lasted another 15 seconds probably, it probably would have been a pile of rubble. There's Eric, got a picture of him up there on it.
Pretty
so
brave.
The people, the Haitians, by the way, probably thought we were crazy. They're afraid to go into these buildings because you have to remember in Haiti they had not had an earthquake for over 200 years. So there was nobody living in Haiti that had ever experienced an earthquake other than somebody that had come to another country. So the idea of an earthquake was pretty devastating for them to begin with. But it was also a good team because the four of us, three of us were California engineers who have some experience in design experience and knowledge concerning earthquakes. And our team leader, by the way, was an architect. There's me talking to a group of kids at one of the schools before we got started to work. They were still meeting their schools, but they weren't meeting in the buildings because many of the buildings people would not occupy because they were afraid to occupy them, even though they might be safe, and that was part of what we were doing. I conducted a couple of training courses also while I was there to train others to at least be able to do a general evaluation on buildings as to sort of a triage, if you want. So, it is clearly unsafe or it is clearly safe, or we better have somebody with more knowledge than us look at it, because that way more and more buildings could be dealt with quicker. Because many buildings are not occupied either because they're clearly unsafe or people are afraid to go into them. People living outside their own home.
Mike, who are these people that you're talking to?
Some of these people were from Compassion, some of them were from various United Nations groups that had come for this particular training session, and then I had another one that was mostly people from other nonprofit or NGOs, non-governmental organizations.
And these are engineers and architects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you guys experiencing aftershocks while you were doing these inspections?
They had one. I didn't notice it, did you? But they were out there having them, but we didn't have them. This is the case. I'm giving them a little certificate here showing that it has been inspected. This particular one was a school building for preschool and kindergarten. Didn't have a crack in it. There was no reason in the world for them not to be in it other than psychological. They just needed somebody to come take a look at it and say, it's okay. So the principal, that's who the lady there is of that school, and it also included primary and secondary school. It was a large school. Wanted that to be able to put on the building so that the parents could see that it would be okay for their children to enter. We post a lot of these still. Or not a lot, actually. Out of the 50-some buildings we did, probably 10% of them were safe to occupy the way they were. Probably 10% were unsafe, just needed to be torn down. Because you got to remember, we're looking at buildings that are still standing. You'll see some of the others in a moment. The other 80% required some work, and we've finished all our design work for the rehab work for those and sent it off. This is us at church on Sunday. This particular gentleman with the suit and Bible, he was our driver and translator. He worked for Compassion. Of course, spoke French, English, and Creole. Creole is basic language. French is the official language. Creole is the street language in Haiti, and he was our translator and driver. Some of the roads he took us on. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I think I had one in between. Nope, guess one out. These are some of the buildings now that we saw. These are buildings right along the main streets. This is, you can see, it's a 3-story building. A portion of it collapsed in the middle. Here's a building that was multi-story. Seen lots of these throughout the community, and lots of these. We arrived 6 weeks after the earthquake. Nobody started to clean these buildings up. We probably didn't see more than a couple dozen pieces of heavy equipment in the whole country while we were there. What cleanup work was being done by hand, a lot of it, with an exception that we'll come to. There's another one that was 6-story, 5-story. It was a shopping center. People are probably still inside of most of these buildings. They won't get to them for a long time. They'll probably never find them because by the time they get to them, the bodies will have decomposed and the bones will be completely crushed. So there's thousands of people lost. This is on the main drag in Port-au-Prince, which is the capital city. There's another building where the ground story collapsed, what's known as a soft story. It was a weak bottom floor because the upper stories you can see damaged but intact. These are commercial buildings. There's another one. There's the presidential palace. Should have included a picture. I was there last fall and have a picture of this pre-earthquake, but you can see the domes, and particularly the one here in the middle. Surprisingly, I think a few people were injured. No life was lost in that, but it's completely damaged. There's another building. Another. We just have thousands. I'll bet you we have, between the four of us, we probably have 1,000 pictures. Of course, some of them are very job related, because we go into a building and we'd be taking pictures of things that we're going to look at to make corrections, so nobody would be interested in those. We're hardly interested in them, but nobody else would be. There's another one. And this one, notice it collapsed right between two buildings that are standing. The one on the right looks like it's leaning, but it's not really. There's a neighborhood. Looks like building blocks have just been scattered out on the floor. This is a city of 3 million people, at Port-au-Prince, which is where this occurred. The country is about 9 million. This is the Hotel Montana. This is a picture of it, picture of a photo of it. There's a reason we're giving you a picture of a photo of it. It's probably the nicest, or was the nicest hotel in Haiti. As a matter of fact, a number of celebrities, reportedly the Clintons were married there. A number of notables have stayed there. It's a very nice, or was a very nice hotel. There it is today. There, the gentleman that the photograph that we were taken with, the team, the guy in the middle was the superintendent involved in the clearing of the Hotel Montana. A number of Americans died in that particular one. They were staying there. And one of the things that was very sad from my point of view was they said the hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent to recover the bodies of Americans and Europeans. And they said, oh, yeah, well, there's a couple Haitians down there somewhere. And who knows if they'll ever even bother to go after them. These gentlemen, while we didn't have a chance to talk to them, were interesting. They were rats or moles? Moles from Mexico, as you can tell from the back of that started a group that started after the Mexican earthquake. They go into these buildings, crawling through the spaces, looking for people, or live or dead, and then to help direct the recovery effort. Obviously little men, but and fearless. Where do the people live? 10 cities. This one is near the presidential palace. Just started people living out on any place they can find. This one is near. That's the presidential palace in the background. There's another picture. That's another park. See these all over town. Some of them because they no longer have a home to live in, and some of them because they're afraid to live in the home that they have. Life goes on. There's the street vendors are pretty common in Port-au-Prince anyway. At their back, they're selling tires, groceries, whatever he can. In the background, that's probably where he lives right now. He's back there with his family. Another street vendor. There are places to get clean water. Didn't see too many of them, but enough people would come, line up, bringing their buckets to get water to drink. Port-au-Prince has a water system after a fact, but you won't drink it. Not unless you just don't want to drink it. Natives don't even drink it. That's how you get it back to home. You carry it. Got to remember, this 5-gallon bucket probably weighs 40 pounds with water in it. Yeah. Yep. There's the laundry. Unfortunately, that's usually the laundry all the time. The difference is it might be indoors otherwise. People, like I said, life continues to go on. This was a church meeting. The church had been destroyed. They just strung up the canvas, and they're meeting outdoors. Schools continue, even though they weren't meeting indoors. The kids are having their classrooms outdoors. And again, they just put up canvas where they have to protect them from the sun or from the rain. We were fortunate when we were there. We didn't have any rain other than 2 nights. We had a little bit of rain, and
you notice in that picture, all those kids are smiling.
Yep. Playing soccer or ball. That is a soccer ball, pretty ragged. Unfortunately, this picture we see quite a bit. Garbage is piled in the streets. Those are pigs. And if on the other piles, there'll be goats or chickens. Then, I might as well tell you about our menu. You know, I had goat meat probably every day, at least once. And when I wasn't having goat meat with my meal, I had chickens, and I don't want to think about where they found them. So, anyway.
No pork?
No pork. Wouldn't go that far. Goat was good, though. Here's the Canadian Embassy. This is right across the street from where we were staying. As a matter of fact, our back is to our parking lot as we take this picture. People were lined up, hundreds of people all the way up the street trying to get a visa into Canada to get out if they have enough money to get there.
Why to Canada?
Easier to get into than it is in the United States, and once you get into Canada, you can come into the United States if you have a visa that allows you into Canada. So, yeah, because you can come to the U.S.-Canadian border, and if you've got a passport with a visa approved by the Canadian government, they'll allow you in. It's supposed to be temporary, but nonetheless, once you're in, you're in.
This embassy was located right across the street from where we were sleeping at, and we were sleeping outside. And so these people would line up, day and night. And so we'd be trying to sleep in our tents, and all of a sudden they would break into a chant or whatnot. It was very eye-opening the first night, that's for sure. I can remember sleeping there, you're listening to them, and all of a sudden there was a coconut tree that was right by our tent, and one fell and dropped right by the tent. Oh, came out of that tent.
Eric hasn't developed it. I've made enough trips now. I've learned to be able to sleep anywhere under almost any condition, so that never bothers me anymore. There's a home, somebody's home that just set up wherever they could, found a couple sheets of plywood, made some. That's probably one of the better homes. Most of them are just canvas. Here's the kids. I'll let Eric tell about some of this. I'll have to comment on this one, though, and I'm sure he will also. Beautiful little smile, beautiful little girl. Considering that she lives in a place that's probably got a dirt floor with all the dirt and everything, I don't know how they keep that dress white.
The kids were probably the greatest, thing that we saw there, as far as just when you look at a child, and it really hit home for me having small kids. You look into their eyes and you still see that same thing. It's the wide eyes, just the full of hope, full of life. And it was no different there. They really sort of hit home for me. Like Mike was saying, though, this little girl, I think I made the comment when we were there. I have a daughter that's probably the same age as this little girl, and she couldn't keep her dresses clean in my home, much less, outside. But we'll just kind of scroll through some pictures. The kids were really great. All the people were very, very nice to us, very hospitable. It was really touching to see everything that they had gone through, and yet their attitudes towards us and everything they did, for us. It was truly amazing. This was a little boy who was actually getting a bath in the middle of the street there. One of the nice things about modern technology too is when you take their picture now, you can just turn the camera right around and show them their picture. He wasn't too thrilled with this one. This is Gary with a couple of kids, and the other kick for him was to wear some of our hard hats or whatnot, and they got a kick out of that. This is me with a shot at some little ones. Mike. But the other thing, notice in the background here, you see the rubble and the razor wire that's around. This is where these kids are playing. This is what they live with. And the sad thing is that it's not going to be cleaned up like it would be here. They don't have the resources. They don't have the taxes. They don't have the government set up to help them. So now this happens, and they are going to have to live with this rubble for generations. It's not a matter of months like it would be here, or years. It's generations. Just some more shots of the kids. We'll sort of scroll through them. This was at one of the, I believe this was at a school. I think they were having a Sunday school, and you can see that they're eating. I think this is a program that Compassion puts on the group that had us down there, and so they were feeding them.
They'll have white teeth.
Yeah, very beautiful people, just in general. But you can see this was somebody's house. This was right behind I believe it was a church that we were at, and you can see look at the little kid in the background, just right on the dirt right there. But their attitudes and their personalities came out in spades, that's for sure. these two little girls were special to us. They followed Mike and I around for probably about 4 hours in one very large church, and they were just, right in our hip pockets, and matter of fact, helped measure different things out and whatnot. They're cute. This is a letter. Actually, Mike took this shot, so I'll let him explain it a little bit.
The place is called Laogon, which is out on the West Peninsula, which makes no difference. This kid was doing his letter. This letter is to his sponsor, whoever his sponsor is, probably in the United States. And so I just wanted to take his picture, but he was so proud of it, he suddenly put it up. So I took a picture of him with the letter that he's writing to his American sponsor.
This was another thing that we saw. You hear about these children organizations, sponsor a child and whatnot, but it was a very good opportunity for us to actually see it and go and see the kids and how much it really has done for them in their lives. And you see them writing the letters to the sponsors. It was very touching. So much, in fact, that Mike and I both actually sponsored a child out of this trip. So it was definitely a good thing. This little guy, it's a pretty good shot, but I think somebody might have taken his lunch money or lost his lunch money, and so this is what he's a little bit upset about.
Oh.
And that's the final shot there, and it sort of sums it up, with the box with Help Haiti and the lady with her head in her hand. For the most part, though, the people still had hope. They were scared and shaken mentally, but you could still see that they had hope and that they were looking forward to the future.
I asked the gentleman who was our translator driver one day, just after we'd gotten to know him well, how he felt about having all these foreigners in his country, because the United States has sent people, NGOs or non-governmental organizations have sent people, UN has sent people and everything, and if he felt threatened, or if the people felt threatened, and he said that on the long run, of course, they want to be able to get themselves back on their own feet, but that he said that he felt that the general feeling of the whole population, the populace, was very, very, very appreciative of the countries and the various groups that were coming in to help, because they recognized not only their own need before the earthquake, but even much more so their lack of resources to be able to really respond to such a devastating earthquake. And so they were very, very appreciative. And I think he was quite sincere. I mean, by the time I got around to asking him that question, I think we had developed some relationship, and he would answer me honestly. And I was hoping he would answer me. I also personally want to thank letting Eric go, as he was a real help on the team. We always claim that God puts these teams together because everybody on the team had certain skills that they brought to bear that were used on the project. Eric felt that he was probably the least experienced, and probably was in some respect the youngest member of the team, but nonetheless he brought a lot of skills and abilities that we didn't have. He has a good construction background, good computer background, along with his engineering background, not to make any light of that by any means. Helped a great deal, but the others each had their strengths, and the team together worked real well. We were working every day we were up between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. We weren't hitting bed again until about 10:30 at night. Now, we had breaks in there for meals and stuff like that, but our focus was the project all the way through. During the daylight, we were inspecting buildings. During the evenings, we were designing solutions to build them. And all four of us were working together at a table. Eric contributed greatly. He more than pulled his share of the work. So I thank you for sending him, and I want to commend him for it. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to send this. And if you ever have any thought about anybody you want to help support, find an organization that the money will get to the people in Haiti and send it or do something, because they desperately need it. So.
Thank you.
One final thought from me was when we were flying back to Florida, and you've spent 2 weeks here, and you've just been immersed in this atmosphere with crumbled buildings and just absolutely no infrastructure, and you can smell a bathroom about 4 doors down, because all it is just a cesspool there. You can't drink the water. People are scared of disease and whatnot. And so we've landed in Florida, and I couldn't help but feel just, sort of a relief. You kind of sort of let down your guard. And when you think deeper into that, we are just so blessed and so fortunate to have the government that we have, to live in the society that we live in, to have the opportunities. I can't tell you how many people that we met while we were down there that were so articulate and smart, and they would be so far up in our society, and yet they're sort of pulled down by theirs, just due to sheer lack of opportunity. So it really just sort of hit home how thankful I am to, pay my taxes and, pay my water bill and pay my sewer bill so I can have those things. It really sort of just sunk everything home.
I was going to ask you how you were changed. You just answered that.
Yeah. For me, the one parting thought on this whole experience, because it came completely out of the blue, but when I left there, I don't know if I gave more or if I received more, truly, from this experience. So I'd like to thank Mike for inviting me.
Sounds to me like you received more.
I think so.
Nothing's out of the blue. Nothing's out of the blue.
I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I feel blessed that the two of you were able to go and give them your guidance and your knowledge and your experience, and I'm just extremely proud of you. So thank you.
Good job.
I'd like to salute you for your sacrifices that you made. And the other point I would make is I've been around most of the world myself and experienced third world countries. And when a major catastrophe like this happens in a third world country, it's insult to injury, the sanitary conditions. And we take a lot of things for granted in America, but it has to do with things like rules, regulations, building codes, professional architects and engineers, inspectors, and collectively that saves huge amounts of humanity at times like this. So we do have a lot to be thankful for, and I salute you.
Thanks.
And one last thing, I'd just like to mention that what Eric said about not having the opportunity, it brings to mind back again to the foster children who don't have equal opportunity. So it's kind of the same thing for our foster kids too, is if they don't have the same opportunities that other children have. So I just want to bring that back around too. And so we're very blessed that you guys went and gave of your own time and your vacation and your expertise. And I hope that more people in our community will give to our foster kids too. So, and thank you very much for what you did for them in Haiti. And we're blessed that you went. So thank you.
Our next item is consideration of future agenda items requested by Councilwoman Donna Westfall. As per the censure, Ms. Westfall is allowed to put anything on an agenda except for those items relating to the wastewater treatment plant. Those items have to be considered by the council as a whole. And so I asked Rod to put this request on the agenda. Her agenda request states, I'm not really sure what she's looking for, but she said, a forensic audit of the water and sewer rate collection system. Now, my question is, are you talking about a billing issue?
No, this is direct. This is because Jody Mangan came up and said the rates were raised illegally and that millions should have been there for the sewer project and wanted an audit on what happened to those funds.
So the audit that we just
well, she mentioned from 1997 on. And she's not the only one. Over the last 2.5 years, people have asked for audits, forensic audits, over and over again.
I actually asked the accounting and finance department the meaning of a forensic audit.
Yeah.
And they said that the word's really just made up in that field. It's an audit is an audit, and our city has been audited, all departments, including water and sewer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure outside of that what you're actually looking for.
Well, the rates were raised illegally.
Per Jody Mangum?
No, actually, I think we have, Jim, wasn't there a letter from you responding to that? I didn't bring it with me, but over the years, the rates were raised illegally, and there was that one lawsuit, I believe, that Joey Sanchez won due to the illegal raise in rates. And so we would like to know what happened to the money that was raised illegally. How was it spent? Where did it go?
The money was raised illegally?
If the rates were raised illegally, what happened to that money? And why weren't they there for the sewer project?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I need either a motion or lack of a motion to have this put on an agenda.
To me, it sounds like the same stuff that you've been asking over and over again, or your cohorts have been asking over and over again.
Okay, the second item that...
If I could offer something, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
To me, it's more of the baseless, aimless accusations that have been made many, many times over, and there's never any. I mean, I wouldn't present something like this and expect to get any kind of a response. No basic homework has been done. No facts have been presented. No case has been created. So it's just like it's a witch hunt based on hearsay or somebody thinks. So I can't support it.
Okay. The second request is a request for an investigation into the city's acceptance of the wastewater treatment bid and whether or not that violates any laws. And I did ask Bob about this briefly, and he said that accepting one bid does not break a law. But
yeah, it's pretty easy to answer that. Just by itself, the fact that there was only one bid and the city accepted it, that is not inherently illegal under any law.
Okay.
And again, I believe we've discussed this at previous council meetings.
Okay. Public comment, Mr. Miles.
I have a question, and my question relates to what I think that Ms. Westfall isn't smart enough to ask the right question, but I think there is a bottom line to her question. It does need to be answered, and let me explain it the best way I can because of my personal experience. I moved here to work for the prison in 1979. From 1997, excuse me, to the present, I've been living and renting at the same location. I have the same owner to that property. Over the time, I've had property managers. Now I pay my rent directly to Mrs. Dickey. Over that period of time, my personal rent has gone up, if I remember right, about 5 times. The excuse Mrs. Dickey uses, and I think she's rightfully in doing this, I don't think as much as I pay is reasonable, but that's an issue between me and her, is that she raises my rent because of the increase she has to pay for my water and my sewer. Well, for a number of years, and I know this for a fact because I know some of our city workers, at our sewer treatment plant for a number of years there wasn't any preventive maintenance. We know that because we have to put all new power boxes in. That's the truth. We put that money into the enterprise funds, the sewer and the water funds, correct, Kelly?
No.
What I believe needs to be audited is the history of the sewer and water funds. And I'm not the only one that says that. A gentleman that I know that sat on this council longer than you have, Kelly, and you only sat it on one term, is Mike Scabuzzo. He asked in the past, where did all that money went, before we decided that we needed to fix our sewer treatment plant. If anything needs to be audited to give the people a truthful answer,
Wrap up, Richard.
is where over that historical period, where did our two enterprise funds go? Because they didn't go into making the necessary repairs before Water Quality and
Okay.
Riverwatch told us that we had to fix our plant.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Does this council wish to put either of these agenda items on, or requests on a future agenda?
The item of having the city only receiving one bid is just a non-issue. That was just a reflection of the climate of the time, that the bid was put out to bid and that was received. The prior city council acted on that based on the knowledge and information they had. So to me, it's an absolute non-issue. It doesn't deserve any more dialogue or time.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
May I say something, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
The fact remains that there's questions about the allegations as to whether the bid was fixed or not. There have been emails back and forth about unfair competition and unscrupulous business practices. And so I think it's something that we owe to our ratepayers to talk about and discuss.
Your email, you should probably consider the source.
Yes, I'd like to say something about the source. And this comes from an article in the Press Democrat by Steve Hart, dated October 18th, 2009. Prodded by organized labor, the state is cracking down on building contractors who break California's prevailing wage law by underpaying their employees on public work projects. Longtime Santa Rosa electrical contractor Sam Semino was barred from taxpayer-funded jobs for 3 years after the state's labor commissioner found he violated wage and benefit laws. Those who bid for public projects had better obey the law and pay prevailing wages, said Labor Commissioner Angela Bradstreet. Contractors who break the law have an unfair advantage over those who follow the rules. This sends a message that there's no tolerance for those who take shortcuts. Public work projects like sewers are a key source of revenue for the building industry. But union officials said labor violations are common. They're urging the state to take action. This is just the tip of the iceberg, said Jack Buckhorn, business manager for International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union 551 in Santa Rosa. When unscrupulous contractors cheat workers and don't play by the rules, it's not only unfair to workers, but it's unfair to business owners who obey the rules and do the right thing. And I'd just like to say, one of the sources is Jack Buckhorn, the business manager for IBEW.
My point. Okay, we're going to move on to item 15, consider and approve advanced training expenditure request from Mr. Plack.
Mayor and members of the council, this item is before you tonight because under the terms of the travel policy that was approved by the city council about a year and a half ago and then updated recently, any individual training that exceeds $2,000 in total needs to have city council approval. So Chief Plack has recommended sending Sergeant Garrett Scott to the Post Management Program, which is a major step in his career and will be a major help to the city and to the police department. And when you factor in the registration costs and the travel of the different phases of this training, it will exceed $2,000. Not by a whole lot, I don't think, but it will cross that $2,000 boundary. So we're just basically bringing this before you tonight in compliance with that policy. We would recommend approval, and the chief does have funds in his current year budget to cover that cost. And I think the chief is available for any specific questions you have about the nature of the training.
I think it's a good investment, personally. Do you guys have any questions?
How much is it?
Mr. Butler just stated a little over $2,000, and it will come out of Mr. Plack's current budget.
Okay.
I had to cancel several training programs for this because this is a 3-week course. He'll be going for his management certificate. So it's not 3 weeks in a row, it's a week, and then come back for 2 weeks and leave for another week, and comes back for 2 weeks and leave for a third week. So it's the reason why we did it this way is because we didn't want to give the impression of impropriety by going ahead and just saying that this is going to cost $2,000, but it is over that period of time. So therefore, so that we can comply with our own rules and regulations.
Okay. Okay. I think you chose a great person to attend.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any public comment? Mr. Miles?
Officer Scott is an excellent officer on our police force, but I still have a cost-saving suggestion to my city council. And the chief's not going to like this, but, you know, if he spends his $2,000, he's not going to have the $2,000 carryover for his next year's budget. So my suggestion, we still got this motorcycle, that we don't have an officer that can ride it. And I heard through the grapevine, and it never was confirmed, that the officer actually never passed.
Mr. Miles, keep your comments to this agenda item.
Well,
please.
My agenda item is to save the city a little money. Let's auction off the motorcycle and put the money in the chief's budget.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I'm closing public comment, bringing back to the council.
I move that we approve the enrollment of Officer Scott in the post management course and approve the allocation of over $2,000 for the training.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Could you please pull the vote?
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalom?
Yes, thank you very much. Good luck to Mr. Scott.
Madam Mayor,
We
can I ask for clarification on item number 14? Was that something to be voted on?
I needed a motion from a council person to have either item put on a future agenda and the item died with a lack of a motion.
Okay.
We're going to item number 8, which is our redevelopment agency. Please note that all 5 members are still here, and I'll take public comment on RDA. Mr. Miles.
Here's another pocket of money that maybe the city needs one of these famous unknown audits taken. And I'll tell you why. One time we had quite a bit of money in our RDA fund. But we had a habit of making grants and loans, and in the meantime, our parking lots down in our redevelopment area weren't taken care of. And if you go look at the breezeway on the Mason Mall size at a certain angle, it's shifting. Mr. Stover, our excellent engineer for the sewer treatment plant, told the city it's structurally not sound. So my question, and maybe at the next city council meeting, Jim Barnes can answer this, is why are my painters up on a ladder scraping the paint off of it so they can paint it? You know, Kelly, you have a liability, and it's called the breezeway. You have money in the RDA fund that should be spent repaving the parking lots in the RDA and fixing a stage maybe at where the maze is at, and tearing down the whole structure so somebody didn't steal the flowers that me and Mary Jo planted, that Jerry planted, because you got a liability. And talk about kissing the hindquarter of my famous pig. This council and other councils for a number of years have kissed that pig. Until you guys wake up, develop a plan that has rhyme and reason, you still got a pig that you're kissing its hindquarter, and it's an embarrassment. When a civil engineer like Eric and our former city manager and city engineer, who went down to Haiti and realized that there were structural problems in schools, we have the same structural problem in a breezeway. And you know how many earthquakes we've had recently on the North Coast if you go to the federal website? 6. Some of them have been small, some of them have been 5 point out in the ocean. It's time my city takes the responsibility in the redevelopment area agency, get off their hindquarters,
Thank you,
tear
Richard.
down the breezeway.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public comment. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar for minutes and warrant claims?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Do we have anything you'd like to add tonight, Mr. Butler?
Not this evening.
Okay. We have no new business items. I would like to just note that we will be undertaking RDA discussions in the next 2 months to move that portion of our business forward. And the tsunami landing issue was addressed at our town hall meeting, and we had 60 participants provide us with input, and we will be moving forward with that. I'm going to adjourn the RDA and bring it back to our regular council meeting. Do we have any legislative matters this evening?
No, Mayor, none this evening.
Okay. Keep us up to date. I know that Charles Daldorf, our league rep, sent us some information recently on not only the gas tax swap, but also the redevelopment agency update, court update. And the good news is that the judge that's hearing the case has promised that he will make a ruling by May 4th. And so we should know by then if California is actually going to be able to take our RDA funds from us or not.
That's right. The other good news item, you mentioned the gas tax. For once, being a small city and rural area helped us. The legislature approved basically what the state's going to do to help its own cash flow problems over the next year is to defer and delay certain state revenues that flow down to cities and counties. The gas tax is one of those, because we are the only city in an under 50,000 population county. We are exempt from that deferral game that they're playing, so we will get our flow of tax revenues, gas tax revenues, on the normal schedule, so that helps.
Great. Reports, concerns, referrals. Ms. Westphal?
Yes. Police Chief Plack, you'll be pleased to know that I attended a meeting of the Del Norte Homeless Active and Remediation Prevention Coalition. This was held from 11 to 1 at the Wellness Center on April 7th. And there was an extensive discussion by Piper Elin, who is home-based in San Francisco, about some of the federal programs. And what I came away with is that their 48-page application and process is one of the most complex, convoluted, confusing government applications and processes I've ever heard of. It seemed to me that there's no money in sheltering the homeless, and therefore nobody wants to jump on the bandwagon and do anything. Since then, I've spoken with Daphne of Daily Bread Ministries and learned that the state mandated that both city and county have to have homeless shelters set up.
Richard, don't speak out, please.
The county has until July of this year, and according to Daphne, the city has 1.5 years. That means that the county can't restrict Daily Bread Ministries anymore, and they can become a shelter. Now, a couple of guys came to my home a couple weeks ago, hours apart, telling me they were now homeless. And I've found out that Daily Breads will give out free tents and sleeping bags, but they're currently out. But the bigger problem is there's no place that they know of where they can legally pitch those tents. The other thing is, in talking with constituents, they don't want to give a hand out, they want to give a hand up. And that means if anyone is capable of working and wants to seek shelter in a homeless shelter, they should agree to work or pay off what the taxpayers are contributing. That means weeding, sweeping, painting, or cleaning up our city. So that's my report.
Regarding that, Mr. Plack, the statement she made about cities and counties having to provide a homeless shelter, is that the case? And if so, I don't think that the county was denying a homeless shelter per se, but instead it was that they were actually denying the building was not suitable and or zoned for a homeless shelter. Can you actually come to the mic? I'm sorry. Mrs. Patch is Very demanding.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. It has to be zoned. It's not a question in where each city in every county needs to have that a homeless campsite for them. It has to be zoned by the city and or the county. So therefore, you're absolutely right. Where the Daily Bread Ministries is concerned is that the building did not comply with what they wanted to do. I have a meeting Wednesday with the nonprofit groups, charities, and the homeless advocates. So see what happens on there. But I'm just dealing with the panhandling issue. This homeless situation is totally different.
Bigger picture.
Granted, there is a watershed there as well, but these are two separate issues. But
Someone also mentioned that El Patio went through foreclosure. That's 28 units, and someone mentioned, could that be used as a homeless shelter?
you know, city manager and I have talked at length on that. I think the city manager has a wonderful idea as far as that's concerned, and I think anything I would say was certainly no comparison to the information that he has. So I'm going to divert that to him. So
I'm doing some initial research on that. We're trying to determine exactly where it stands in the foreclosure process, and actually one of the APN numbers that's mentioned on the closed session, we didn't get to it in our closed session this evening, but I'm going to, at one of the next couple of meetings, do some initial discussion with the council, actually more accurately, in this case, the Redevelopment Agency Board, about whether there would be any interest in rehabbing that facility and having it not so much as a shelter in the official in that sense, but maybe a transitional housing for
Low
single
income.
moms. Part of what we're committing to in our housing element that's being updated right now is providing that kind of housing, transitional housing for people. So it's actually not. You're not the first person that's thought of that, but I don't want to go too far down the road until we've done the research and then presented it to the agency board to really hash out the pros and cons.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burns?
Solid Waste Authority met last week. We have 3 bids now that have come in for the new franchise that will be awarded later this spring. And one's out of Willits, 2 are out of Crescent City. If you want the details, they have the requests at the Solid Waste Authority. You can go see them.
Yes, and I'm actually going to be sitting on the ad hoc committee to review all 3 bids. Not sure how I get myself into these things, but it's actually very interesting. So I actually reviewed the previous franchise agreement with the new franchise agreement, and so I'm actually kind of excited to get through the entire process and kind of see where we end up. Some of the other things we're doing on that board is addressing our code issues in the county, and we actually just solidified our first nuisance and are moving forward with abatement, and so that'll be it's kind of a sad situation. I had a hard time with it personally, but when they don't comply and you give them extra time and then you try to work with them and they still just will not comply at all, you have to move forward. But it is a good process to help clean up our county. So, Mr. Slurt?
I attended recently the IGRC meeting, the El Tico meeting, the Elk Valley Rancheria Ad Hoc Committee, and the Visitor Bureau. Regarding the Visitor Bureau, I think the issue of sustainable funding is still hanging out there, and I believe that there'll be a presentation, and hopefully it'll be on the next agenda because they're getting down to the wire for the operation. And so I think that there'll be possibly another presentation by the Visitor Bureau and or the Chamber.
Could you enlighten us? Because Because I know we just wrote them a check for $100,000, so where is that money?
That's actually been spent. It was for the fiscal year July 2010 or 2009 to 2010, and so it's been spent.
I'm not saying it's not, but on what?
Advertisement, the website are two things that I'm aware of offhand, and the staff is basically operating at bare bones right now.
I just think that this board will be able to make better decisions if we can actually see a report of what they've actually, where they've advertised, how much it cost. I'd like to see an accounting of where that money is.
Be happy to bring that.
That'd be great.
For us. And then another item that I had was I know that the work is at the wastewater treatment plant is winding down, and there's that staging area that Wallen Construction has used, and I'm wondering if there's a plan on the part of the city to kind of coordinate and/or clean that general area up before 4th of July.
Good point. Mr. Barnes, is there a plan? The answer is yes.
Certainly, the contractor would like to get it all cleaned up, and there's no reason not to. And so, yeah, we'll get it cleaned up. And he likes to get it every year. We always get it all weeded up and cleaned up because we're aware of the 4th of July, and so we'll work at doing that.
Great, thank you.
Very good.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Certainly. And then I just wanted to follow up or mention the issue that our colleague, Ms. Westfall, with her ongoing drama and interest now to recall the entire council. She made it clear at the outset that she was about drama, and the drama never ends. But I think the notion of actions speak louder than words. A few summary points would be important. In Ms. Westfall's case, in 17 months, she now will have endorsed 9 recalls, 2 lawsuits, 2 initiative petitions, and underwent a censorship. For me, in 17 months, this is not leadership. From the people that I hear from daily, repeatedly, this does not represent the majority of this community. For me, it's an abuse of power, and I think it's unparalleled political absurdity.
I'm just curious. Let's say all 4 of us were recalled. Does Donna get to appoint her group?
Or is it
usually that takes place during the actual ballot process?
If it gets on the ballot, makes it to the election stage, there are people names proposed to replace if, Councilmember X is recalled.
Right, but who gets to propose those names?
I'm not sure how that process even works. If it's
you have to sign up just like you're going to run for office.
Regarding that issue, I just thought it was interesting that she's trying to recall Dennis and I, since in November he's not running for re-election, so his recall would be on the same ballot that he's not going to be on because he's most likely choosing not to run for election again. And if I run for re-election, my name would be on there anyway, so the people would have a choice of voting for me or not. So she's wasting taxpayers' money on 2 recalls that make absolutely no sense at all. So that's quite interesting. I mean, so.
Madam Mayor, the 499 people that signed the recalls for Charles Slurt, and a few less for Catherine Murray, feel like they're being used as cash cows. So it would be nice if this body were open to discussion. However, we've seen time after time that you're not. People feel like they have been ignored. And so as long as my constituents want me to do this, I will do it.
Which is fine. I'm just curious why you choose to use taxpayer money to recall two people that will either be on the ballot or not be on the ballot.
Well, I didn't know whether you will or will not. My constituents just don't want you reelected. That's what they're telling me. So I'm following their lead.
Did you happen to think about that, though?
I always am cognizant of the money. You know, it brings back the point that you four voted to approve $895,000 to Stover Engineering. Without adequate discussion, you approved $398,000 for contaminated soil. We can't afford you.
That Stover Engineering that we approved, this council approved, 4 of us, was the completion of a construction administration contract. It did not increase the contract. In fact, there's been multiple cost reductions and change orders that this council has approved over the last year and a half. So again, the facts are not the facts. They're not being presented, and it's just endless.
I know. And your ignorance regarding the soil contamination continues to boggle my mind. The fact that we actually went through the legal process to have the soil removed ended up being more soil than what was originally thought, and we paid to have it done legally and ran through the environmental process, and you still have a problem with it.
Yes, because your lack of consideration and discussion in contacting the Superfund just baffles the rest of us.
It was not. Okay, we continue to waste our time with you.
One final comment. There was an incredible document that has been prepared by the city, and it's public information. And I think it's worth noting. It's by our city attorney, Mr. Black, and it's the city of Crescent City. I guess it's a court claim document against Miss Westfall, her husband, and the Tao, Rachel Tao, and acting city clerk. But the thing that I applaud is if you take the time and see it and read it by line item, and it's 20, 30 pages, 20 pages or less, it spells out the exact history and sequence of events from day one regarding the wastewater treatment facility infrastructure system for this city. And it's an outstanding document, but it's just curious that some people choose to be aware of certain things and choose not to be aware of other things. But it was a well done document, Mr. Black.
Exactly. Ms. Murray?
I'll just focus on 2 nice events that I attended over the weekend, and I'm sorry I missed the Explorers Ball, but I attended the Youth and Family Fair on Saturday, where there were over 600 people, families, who went through the line of the counters, told me that in the first half hour. So that was part of the child abuse prevention activities for the month of April, which was really very nice. And then the Earth Day activities that we had at the Cultural Center yesterday. So,
thank you for going to those. Well, last week it just kind of reminded me we celebrated Week of the Young Child, and so it was kind of nice to follow that up with a council room full of young kids. We had an annexation workshop about a week and a half ago, or a week ago, that was very informative and gave this council a foundation, brief education on pros and cons of annexation. And I wanted to thank Mr. Butler for putting that together. Some of the harbor officials attended as well, so they were able to benefit from that We had a youth town hall meeting that was put on by Friday Night Live that focused on underage drinking, and I was asked to be the welcome speaker, and I was just really honored to do that. And I just continue to be amazed by the things that our kids are doing. And I spoke to them as a mother and as a leader in the community, and just told them how proud I was for, you know, going through the challenge of being challenged by underage drinking and peer pressure, and taking a stand amongst their peers and saying, we're not going to do this. So I even signed a pledge as a parent, saying that I will not provide alcohol to a minor. So it was a wonderful evening, and I actually wish more people would have been there to see it. I attended the Explorers Ball, Officers Ball on Saturday night, and again, another wonderful event with, I think we had between 15 and 20 young explorers there that worked their tail ends off all day, actually probably for the entire couple months leading up to it. But what a great event. It was a packed house. There was probably 100 or so people there. And I don't know what they raised, but I'm going to guess it was $7,000 or $8,000.
It did raise $8,000. With expenses, brought up to $6,500.
So what Mr. Plack just said was they raised $8,000, and after expenses, they'll have $6,500, and that money, 100% of the proceeds are going to go towards those kids being able to go to a national academy, and I'm just so happy for them. They worked hard for that. I attended the ribbon cutting for the partnership that our police department has with the multi-free, no, I can never say it. Crime-free multi-housing program, and First Five Del Norte. And what was really cool about it was they've turned what was used to be the part of their like workshop, you know, where their carpenter, their manager could, you know, had a room to fix things for the apartment building, and they were able to give up half of that and turn it into a gathering place for children. And it was everything in there was donated by different businesses here in the community. A lot of the work was donated, the labor was donated, and the kids, there was about 10 little kids there, and they got to cut the ribbon, and they just went running in, and they were so excited to have a computer, and it was pretty heartwarming, and I think one of the best programs that our city has taken on, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. We have, there was a community development block grant funding fair in Reading, and I don't think the city was able to attend, but Scott Feller, the president of the Harbor Commission, attended, and he gave me a packet of information, and I'll pass it on to you. But what I wanted to point out was during that fair, they presented an option for cities. If you have a project that qualifies and you're not sure where to get the funding, you can actually submit the paperwork, and they have a team of people now that will help you find it, not find the money, but find the right avenue to apply for the money. So I think that might be a big benefit and something a resource we may not have had in the past. And last but not least, our town hall meeting was a huge success again, and I can't thank my staff enough for making it happen, and the council for being there. But overall, we had 60 participants, and we had just 3 major groups, which was beachfront park improvements, Front Street improvements, and then also downtown and Tsunami Landing. And we got a lot of feedback, a lot of really good information. We had 99.9% positive feedback from everybody, and it was just a great morning, and I think we have quite a few surveys filled out with people's wants and desires, and you know, never, like I said in one of my speeches, we'll never please everybody, but hopefully we can take the majority of people's wishes and make some of those come true.
Connie Morrison is still mad, but we're doing with her.
Yeah, she was upset because she was 2.5 hours late, and could not fathom how we could have a meeting on a Saturday morning.
She
But
was
that's
also
okay.
upset, Madam Mayor, because she felt like so many other people in the city feel that the city staff comes up with solutions or programs or a process, and the input from the community, although it seems like you're considering it, that it's really ignored. So that's one of the reasons she was upset.
How dare you do your jobs? That's all I have to say. Okay, city manager directives. Anything from the council? I'd like to see an update on the trees.
Yeah, I was going to say.
On the, what did I appoint you to? The opening and the gateway. I know you asked me to come by and take a look, but the signage, and you guys were going to work on that with Mr. Barnes on our welcome to Crescent City areas. And what else were we going to do?
The trees still have not been ordered?
Courthouse trees are allegedly being planted Wednesday of this week, but I have become very cynical in my old age. But we'll see.
Because you're so old.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thanks for being here this evening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.